Why is he talking about this? Why is he talking about this publicly?
I'm going to say one thing. Trump.
If you're going to come out and say that you have a really deep-seated hatred for one of the two people running for president, you can't just be, he's a bully, he's a piece of shit, I hate him.
He's an idiot. Colin Powell said it best. He's a national disaster. He's an embarrassment to this country. It makes me so angry that this country has gotten to this point, that this fool, this bozo, has wound up where he has.
You probably, if you're going to express yourself about it and alienate 50% of the country, which it seems like it is, you're going to have to do better than that. You should have some specific things.
Oh, Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
Now, Kurt's convinced that Robert De Niro's on some kind of Epstein list or some kind of thing like that, and then he's afraid that if Trump does get power, he's going to expose him, and he is actually going to come at him.
Of course Kurt thinks that.
That's what Kurt thinks that.
Kurt thinks that about every thing that happens in the world.
I think Robert De Niro's just got Trump derangement syndrome.
I think he's old, too. There's a thing about old men.
And
they want to yell at everybody.
And he's completely... Did you see when he went and gave that speech outside of the trial? That was bizarre.
Who told him that was a good idea?
And then
Get ready, folks, because what happens when Joe Rogan, the world's most unpredictable podcast host and a one-man cultural battleground, decides to go full beast mode on one of Hollywood's most legendary and now apparently angriest grandpas, Robert De Niro? Spoiler alert, it's not pretty. It's definitely not Taxi Driver, and it involves a verbal jujitsu takedown so wild, so unfiltered. Even Martin Scorsese couldn't direct this level of chaotic brilliance. From political rants that sound increasingly unhinged to Rogan's signature blend of protein shakes and brutal honesty, we're diving deep into a showdown that might just leave De Niro's tough guy image in tatters. Is De Niro done for? Stick around, because this is more brutal than his last attempt at comedy.
He starts yelling at regular people. He's like, fuck you, you're a gangster. Go fuck you. Like,
it's crazy that that's the guy from Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
You know what also I think? I think those guys have no friends. I think the only friends they have are Hollywood phonies. And so you're in this weird world where everybody you talk to is a phony, and you become a phony, and everyone's a phony, and your grasp on reality is very slippery, and your eyes are going, right? Mm-hmm. So your vision of the world, your actual vision of the world, your ability to read a phone. You ever see old people's text messages? The fucking text on their phone is like as big as my hand.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And so your vision of the world is blurring, literally and figuratively, and then you're getting old.
Robert De Niro. The name itself once conjured images of gritty intensity, Oscar-winning performances, and an undisputed reign as the king of cinematic cool. He was the guy who could make you believe he was a ruthless mob boss, a mentally unhinged taxi driver, or a raging bull with a single smoldering glance. But somewhere along the way, the script flipped. De Niro seemingly swapped the silver screen for relentless Twitter rants and increasingly bewildering political outbursts. Suddenly, the man who embodied complex anti-heroes wasn't just playing tough guys. He was shouting at the entire world like your perpetually grumpy neighbor who's just discovered the perils of Facebook comment sections. It's like he officially retired from acting and enthusiastically picked up the mantle of professional outrage ambassador. A bad reality show reboot where the main character just yells about politics instead of, acting. He's out there yelling at regular people, you're a gangster? Go yourself. It's crazy. Is that the guy from Taxi Driver?
You're on stage in front of people with TV cameras pointed at you. You've never experienced that in your life, and you have a panic attack. It doesn't mean you're an idiot, and that's also Robert De Niro.
Yeah, it's
the same thing.
Yeah,
it's like, why is he talking about this? Why is he talking about this publicly?
Enter Joe Rogan, the man who single-handedly turned a podcast into a global cultural phenomenon. A cage-fighting commentator who somehow became the king of long-form conversations that can flip your entire brain like a well-cooked pancake. Rogan's audience is massive, fiercely loyal, and has virtually zero patience for what they perceive as elite posturing or inauthentic grandstanding. So, when Robert De Niro started turning his public appearances and award show speeches into angry, often rambling political rallies, it was only a matter of time before Rogan, the bloodhound of perceived phoniness, picked up the scent and decided to pounce. And when Rogan pounces, it's not with a polite critique or a nuanced debate. No, Rogan goes full verbal demolition mode, meticulously breaking down what he sees as Hollywood hypocrisy with the precision of a UFC champion landing a devastating knockout
And
punch.
when old people are tired and cranky, they just want everyone to listen to them, and they don't have time to have a calm conversation. And you state out your opinion, I'll state my opinion. Let's see where we have common ground. Get off my lawn! And that's what he's doing. That's what he's doing. He's being this old grumpy man that is so lost that he thinks it's a good idea to stand in front of a bunch of people on the street and give a speech on camera about how bad Donald Trump is. With all the shit that's going in the world.
That I know.
All the craziness of the world.
Right.
The delicious irony, which Rogan gleefully zeroed in on, is the stark contrast between De Niro's iconic on-screen personas and his current off-screen political diatribes. This is a man who built a legendary career playing morally complex, often deeply violent and corrupt characters. Mob bosses, hitmen, morally bankrupt cops, you name the cinematic scoundrel. De Niro has probably embodied him. Yet, off-screen, he's transformed into a self-appointed moral guardian, yelling from his presumed ivory tower about how the world is going to hell in a handbasket. From Rogan's perspective, and likely that of his millions of listeners, that's like a guy who's been moonlighting as a professional troublemaker, suddenly lecturing the neighborhood watch about the importance of curfew. It's incredibly hard to take seriously when your resume essentially reads, "Played a murderous psychopath in half my movies," and your current public gig is angrily complaining about everyone else's moral compass.
Robert De Niro, there's something about being a star where you think your opinion's more important than anybody else's, and you can go give a press conference. And he obviously has been very vocal from 2016 that he hates Trump for whatever reason. Maybe they have some personal thing.
You think Trump ever threw a punch himself or took one? This guy who ran and hid in the White House bunker when there were protesters outside? No way.
Now he's like holding press conferences. Now everyone's heckling him everywhere he goes.
That's so bad.
Like
It's
you,
tough.
instead of just being this cranky old liberal, now you're this guy that is yelling at other people that are Trump supporters, and they're yelling at you. Like you've opened yourself up to this nonsense. Why?
Rogan didn't just stop at calling out De Niro's newfound role as an angry elder statesman. He hammered relentlessly on the glaring fact that De Niro's opulent lifestyle couldn't be more disconnected from the realities faced by the average person he's supposedly lecturing. Robert De Niro, as Rogan might frame it, lives in a celebrity bubble so thick, reality needs a visa to enter. The same man complaining about societal issues and the direction of the country has spent decades basking in multi-million-dollar mansions, private jets, and the kind of Hollywood glitz that most people can only dream of. For Rogan's audience, largely composed of working-class folks who actually wrestle with daily struggles and economic anxieties, De Niro's tirades come off as the out-of-touch rantings of a disconnected elite. It's a classic case of do as I say, not as I do. And Rogan pounced on that hypocrisy like a wolf smelling fear. He even suggested De Niro and his Hollywood cohorts have no friends outside their phony world, leading to a slippery grasp on reality and eyes that are literally and figuratively blurring.
I think he and Trump hate each other personally. I think that's
Really?
what that is. Yeah, I think probably. What are the odds?
He
that
seems
didn't run
mentally
into-
handicapped. I'm not kidding. He seems I don't know. I have a feel he doesn't
Yeah.
know about. He was on Bill Maher. Bill Maher has him on to ask him. It's crazy that Bill Maher would ask him anything. You know, there's a National Guard in the fucking subways and shit.
Yeah.
So Bill asks him, "What do you think about it?" He goes, "I don't know. I don't know about that. If there's anything
Listen,
I can do to help,
All
I
you should
guess."
be asking Robert De Niro about is two things:
Yeah.
awesome movies and divorce.
Yeah. Yes.
Tell me what happened to
I would
you
love to ask him
with
about
the
that.
divorce. Tell me what happened if you want to talk about it, and tell me what happened to you with these awesome fucking movies. I don't need to know jack shit about his politics.
Then there's the broader cultural war backdrop, a territory where Joe Rogan thrives. He's long been the guy pointing his microphone squarely at what he sees as celebrity virtue signaling, the performative righteousness that often feels less about genuine conviction and more about looking good on Instagram or scoring points with a certain segment of the population. De Niro's increasingly fervent political grandstanding fits this mold perfectly. All fury, little substance, and conveniently wrapped in the luxurious insulation of unchecked privilege. Rogan's podcast is an open forum where ideas, however controversial, get tossed around, dissected, and debated. De Niro's political diatribes, on the other hand, often feel like rehearsed, one-sided theater performances designed for applause from a pre-approved Hollywood audience, not genuine engagement. The contrast is stark, and frankly, quite hilarious when pointed out.
I mean, he's so blatantly stupid. He's a punk, he's a dog, he's a pig, he's a con, a bull artist, a mutt who doesn't know what he's talking about, doesn't do his homework, doesn't care.
You didn't think this through. Like, this is, and he's getting yelled at. He's doing an outside press conference. Like,
Is that the country we want to live in? Do we want him running this country and saying, I'm not leaving, I'm dictator for life?
Robert, you're 80 years old. Don't ruin this thing. You've had this life where you were a raging bull. You know, you were you were in The Godfather. Like, stop doing this.
man.
Don't do this.
What makes Rogan's takedown of De Niro particularly effective and arguably devastating is his refusal to engage in a traditional back-and-forth debate. There's no respectful exchange of ideas here. There's no attempt to find common ground. It's a one-sided verbal demolition. Rogan knows De Niro isn't going to show up on his podcast to defend his rants. And that very silence speaks volumes. In fact, the lack of a direct response from De Niro is part of the spectacle Rogan creates. It's like watching a heavyweight boxer meticulously shadowbox his opponent into oblivion, while the opponent just stands there, arms down, looking confused and waiting for the bell that never rings. Rogan's verbal punches land with precision, and De Niro's silence only makes those hits seem louder, more impactful, resonating through the vast echo chamber of Rogan's audience.
The people that are doing it right now about Biden telling you how you should vote, even though you know he's impaired, you definitely shouldn't vote for Trump.
He has no understanding that I can see of the outside world other than anything around him. He has no idea of what his purpose in life is, as the president should be, and that is to pull the country together, to be for the people, to heal wounds, not to open them up and pour salt on them.
Don't tell people that, you idiot, because it's going to make more people angry and want to vote for Trump.
Rogan lays out the blueprint for the takedown by zeroing in on cultural hypocrisy. Hollywood, for all its glamour and performative progressiveness, has a notorious habit of lecturing the world on issues like capitalism, corruption, and morality, all while its biggest stars sit comfortably atop literal piles of cash. De Niro becomes the poster child for this perceived paradox. He spent his entire career embodying characters who often exist in a morally gray, if not outright criminal zone. Yet, he seems genuinely shocked and appalled that the real world doesn't immediately buy his sudden, late-in-life transformation into a high priest of political virtue. Rogan's logic is simple and brutal. If you act like a mobster on screen for decades, don't be surprised when people don't take your subsequent moral outrage all that seriously. It's a credibility gap wider than the Grand Canyon.
You are not going to convince anyone walking down the west side of New York City talking into your phone about what a threat Trump is to democracy. You aren't changing anybody's vote. You're just being a condescending, scolding, liberal, which is what drives everyone crazy.
I always say he's a lowlife. He's a lowlife.
But Rogan isn't just mocking De Niro for his political rants. He's highlighting the inherent absurdity of the situation with a comedic, almost sitcom-like twist. He paints a vivid picture of this grizzled, legendary actor, famous for his intense, snarling on-screen presence and quiet, brooding intensity, now reduced to yelling at invisible enemies from his mansion, or, even more bizarrely, at a press conference outside a courthouse, where he was heckled. It's almost like watching a beloved action hero try to use a flip phone in 2025. Technically possible, but painfully, comically out of touch. This deliberate exaggeration adds a layer of humor that makes the takedown not just a critique, but a deeply entertaining spectacle. The once feared tough guy who masterfully played psychopaths now seems to be shouting at Twitter storms like a confused grandpa trying to understand emojis. The larger, more resonant message Rogan is sending with this brutal takedown is all about authenticity. In today's hyper-scrutinized, internet-driven culture, audiences crave realness, not staged outrage or carefully curated political personas. De Niro's recent rants, in Rogan's framing, feel rehearsed, predictable, and utterly detached from the everyday struggles and concerns of most people. Rogan, by stark contrast, plays the everyman, raw, unfiltered, and unapologetically himself, flaws and all. That contrast makes De Niro look like a relic of a bygone Hollywood era, a man shouting from a pedestal that nobody under the age of 50 even cares about anymore. And in the digital age, relevancy isn't just important, it's everything. Rogan's dismantling isn't just about debating facts or policies, it's about methodically deconstructing the myth of celebrity wisdom, exposing the uncomfortable contradictions, and letting the sheer absurdity of an out-of-touch icon do most of the work. De Niro's angry public persona becomes a caricature, a cautionary tale about what happens when fame overstays its welcome and gets hopelessly lost in its own echo chamber, far removed from the pulse of the real world.